Yeah. So just quick, we're just looking at I was looking at the daily. Looking at the daily, we've had this strong push up here with no real correction. And as you can see, whenever we have strong pushes, we generally have some sort of correction. Strong push, correction, even strong push here, and we end up fizzling down to a correction. So generally, you come back to areas in and around the previous support or resistance where it was broken. And so that's all I'm looking at is just this idea that we've had this strong push. We have a couple different areas that we're looking at. One was down here because at the time we were looking, I think it was right up here in this area here, but now we pushed past that zone. So probably have to completely revamp this and go, okay, where can we go next? In which case, might have to clean up something like this and look there. But this is all based upon the daily. This is, we're looking at this uptrend that's slowly been formed with higher highs and higher lows as it goes. So you have a possibility to come back here and retest this area before bouncing up. You also have a possibility to come all the way down here to this trend line and still be in trend, so to speak. So all this is from the daily context. Now, to see when that turnaround is going to happen, to just start planning and things of that nature, that's where you start, or that's where I was starting to drill down and go, okay, what do I see here? Well, on the 4-hour time frame, it's still in an uptrend. As long as we stay above this trend line here, then I would say that we're still making higher highs and higher lows in this uptrend. I would want to see, and that's where we drop down to the hourly, I would want to see the structure broken. And so we're making higher highs and higher lows this entire time. And what I was waiting, I think we're somewhere down here or something like that. I was waiting for this trend line to be broken, a full on break out of it, and then a retest of a particular level. I'm not sure where the level is. To me, at that point in time, this is what made sense because none of this stuff printed here. You had a relatively clean area of a resistance and then a minor support here. If it broke down and came back and retest, that's perfect. Then once price rejected that and then broke this level that it created, that's a good sign that the trend is changing because you now have a higher high, a lower low, a lower high, and then a lower low now created. And so it's like that is the case in point of a downtrend. And so that would have been a good indication that we are now coming down. Well, okay. Once again, we're just being reactive. I'm just trying to pre-plan what's getting ready to happen or what I believe is going to happen in order for me to start planning that. If you were to be taking sells in this, and I'm not sure if Coinbase allows you to do that, it might, then this is what you'd be looking for. You'd be waiting for this structure to start setting up. And as it, it started breaking zones, you would look to get into these particular zones. So there's would be an entry there, break, there would be an entry here if you could get into it, and all the way down to wherever you thought the next level would be. And so that's one way to do it. The other way, usually for long-term investing, is more about buying the dips. You're buying the pullbacks. And so once again, we're taking the context of the daily, that daily level that I was looking at was down here. If you stay on this lower level, you can trade this all day long. Sure, same exact thing. We have an uptrend and we just follow the trend. It's like, where was the support that was previously broke or resistance that was previously broken? Well, there would have been a buy. You probably could have, I don't know, that's not a big gain, but we'd be looking at less than 10% gain before it rolled over. But really, as long as you stay above this trend line, stay above this last lower high that was created, it's still technically in trend. And so, it started rejecting this area here. It's like, okay, this might be it. Sure, you get in, you hold it, and you could be riding this, but you're only riding this on the 4-hour time frame. I would not look at the daily and go, yeah, I'm expecting all of this to just continue shooting up because we haven't had any sort of pullback on the daily that sort of it needs. The pullback comes from a few different areas. It comes from people taking profits at particular levels. Once price bounces off a level and they think, okay, this is going to be an area that I find traffic, the buyers that were down here get out. That helps push the price down. The sellers, the people who are actually taking sells off this, going, no, I'm going to speculate that the market is going to go down from here. They're also taking entries at these levels, and so this is where that relief comes from. And so that we haven't had that. We need to have that. I mean, we don't necessarily need to have that, but that's generally how the market goes, especially a somewhat predictable market, is what you're looking for. We didn't have that, for this entire time ish between the month, the month of whatever month that is, September of 2021. There wasn't really much relief there, but even then you can see that there were sections of areas where people bought in, and then this is where people are taking profits, and this is where people are going, yeah, price should go ahead and turn around, and they're speculating that it's going to go down. Now, where they were going, speculating it was going to go, I have no idea. But either way, you have this shoot up and the relief. Same thing, shoot up and you have relief. So you have it all over the place, and that's all I'd be waiting on. You can trade the lower market. This 1 hour time frame, if you wanted to trade this, you could trade this all day long. You're in an uptrend, you just continue buying. You buy at the particular levels. So we just broke this level right here. Clean up this level here. That's no longer, so this plan is like no longer valid down here. It still makes sense. If this trend needs to reverse, this is generally what a reversal looks like. You break out of the trend line, you come and retest, and you start creating downtrend structure. That's it. And you just play the structure. So here you have this zone here, which is a resistance zone that has been broken now, and now it's going to come back. In theory, it should test it. What does that test look like? I don't know. Could come back here a few times. It could ride this trend line a little bit more before finally shooting back up, if it's going to maintain this uptrend structure. If not, the plan is it'll break this trend line. It'll come back and retest a particular area. What that area looks like, I don't know. You have to wait until the market paints out more like this is what it looks like now. This would be perfect. It breaks through this area. This is a resistance area that it tried to swipe through, couldn't do it, and now all of a sudden is losing steam. That would be a perfect scenario, perfect story of how this is going to flip over. But I won't know that unless it actually does it. And once price does what it does, you just follow the story. What is the story telling you? At this point in time, the story, if it did that, the story would be telling me you have a lot of buyers who are in here thinking Solana is going to go up. At this point in time, Solana is going up. Sellers are stepping in. Why are they stepping in? No idea. Sellers are stepping in. Buyers are taking profit. It pops up here one more time. If it breaks back below this area and then come and retest, this is a good sign for all the people who are buying at this level to look at this level and go, okay, you know what? This is probably time for me to get out, because we don't seem to be having a lot of power. There's not a lot of buying power in this uptrend anymore. So that funneled with the sellers looking at this going, okay, looks like the buyer's stepping out. It's our turn. The sellers step in, and all of a sudden you get downtrend structure created. The market is really nothing more than a human element. Even if you go with algorithms that are being created in order to buy and sell, the algorithms are created by human people as well. Human people. They're created by humans as well. So you still have the human element in there that you just have to read and create a story with it in order to understand. Once again, most of it is reactive. It's not exactly predictive. I'm not necessarily predicting where I think the market's going to go. I'm reacting to what the market's telling me is already happening. So once this happens, this is a general reaction that there's a higher probability the market will start rolling over from here. Where is it going to go? There's no guarantee. I'm not looking for, everything and anything. For me, I look at the daily time frame like we did earlier. And from there, if I start seeing the rollover on the lower time frame, I can get into a smaller position down here on such a smaller move that I don't actually care where it goes long term, because I've already gotten in and out of my trade at that point in time. Point in case would be this GUP CHF trade that I'm still in right now, but I've closed out 90% of my profits. On the daily, we are in a downtrend. It's not a strong downtrend, but you have higher highs and higher lows being created this entire time. We finally broke down here. On the lower time frame, you have still another downtrend. You have higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Come and retest this area. I found an entry on a lower time frame on the 15 minutes. Got into the market, closed out here, and now I'm just riding my position now to see if it's actually going to make it down to the lower lows. That's it. It's the same exact thing over and over again. I don't care if it actually plummets from here. I don't care if it goes up from here. Just as long as I can get in on my small little bounce, that's all I need. And so it's the looking at Solana for a long-term investment, I would be looking at the daily and leaving it alone. It's like, where do I expect Solana to go on a long term? Well, long term right now, I would be waiting for a pullback. That would be a perfect place to buy into more Solana if you're going to get into it. If you're going to manage it more micromanage, then you can sell high and buy low. And the only way to do that, or the way to try to maximize that, capitalize upon that, is to find these areas where price is likely to bounce from, which would be this next zone up here. I would very likely to see some sort of reaction here where price pulls back. What that pullback looks like, I have no idea. Will it come all the way down to the trend line? Will it come to a support resistance area? Will it create a new trend on its way up and it respects that trend line? I have no idea. You're reacting to what it does. So if you sell all of your position up here, wait for that pullback to happen, get into a trend line here, well, then you've gained whatever this was, 27%. And then you gained again another 25% by selling off and rebuying. But now you have more buying power because you made profit here and you're buying at a lower rate. Okay, let's say you buy there, and because it's showing you some rejection and whatnot, but price comes all the way down here instead and respects this area. Well, you just hold. I mean, you are already up here to begin with, so you really haven't lost anything. The only way you're really going to lose is if it happens to completely go out of this downtrend completely and go lower than when you actually entered. That's one way to lose. The only other way to lose is if this thing just skyrockets to the moon and you never get anything. But really, that doesn't generally happen. You have these waves, these movements that the market does that provide opportunities for you to get in. And instead of just holding here at $27 and waiting it to get to 48, you can get here at $27, gain the 39%, whatever that is, sell it off again, wait for it to gain, come back in and get back in again, go all the way up to the 75%, buy, sell off that, wait till it drops back low again, get back in. And so this is how, your 401k people operate. It's not like they're buying into one thing and then just holding it until it goes up. They are buying and selling all day long, riding these same exact market. And so there's a way to do it. And so I'm not really trying to predict the market. I'm trying to see, I have areas that I'm interested in that I'm looking at. And then I just have a plan if things sort of start turning in my direction of the way that I visualized it in my head of how I'd like to see it happen. Call that predicting if you want. More, I guess, speculation. But that's pretty much how that would work on Solana, at least from my perspective right now. And so yeah, that's really the only two ways to lose, I would say, is if you happen to sell here and it just skyrocketed to the moon. It's like, okay, yeah, that the likelihood of that happening is very, very low. I think even if we looked at Bitcoin, that's the wrong Bitcoin. Where is Bitcoin? Was that the one I was just at? There we go. So if we look at Bitcoin, this is about the time that everything, took off for Bitcoin. 2020 came all the way down there to 40,000, had a nice pullback. Same thing. It's like, okay, price gets in here and there are levels in here. Like you have levels that it's like you could have bought in at any of these particular levels and then ride the next wave up. You never know how high it's going to go. And so, you can look at all this and go, yeah, I could have bought in, but you have no idea where it would have gone. You have no idea when it would have sold off. You have no idea when it would have turned around. And so you have these areas though, and you can see these particular pullbacks of particular levels. And it's like, okay, that's a pretty big one. I wouldn't have never used that one. You have that level there. And then there's a couple levels as you have this finer uptrend here that you possibly could have gotten in at as other areas that you're expecting price to bounce at. And once again, if you're speculating that price is going to continuously go up anyway, then even if you get into some drawdown, it's okay, because if you've made money on the way up, you haven't really lost anything by having a little bit of drawdown and getting back in at a lower price, even though you were in drawdown on a particular trade. If you're expecting price to continue to go up, that's one way to do it. That's more of a long-term investment than 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 active day trading, but it's still one way to manage it. And then the only real way that you lose is if price completely leaves without you, never comes back, and you never find another way to get back in, and just continuously goes north. Once again, highly unlikely because price doesn't travel that way. And the other way is if it actually goes lower than what you got in at. And if you get lower than that, well, then it's you are where you are. For those who actively bought, way back when and it's way up here, could there still be ways? Maybe not during this. Good gracious! I mean, unless you were selling, you could be selling Bitcoin. Could there have been ways for them to recoup their money all along this path down? Yeah, this seems rough though. I would have hated to have been somebody who held it at 66,000. Good gracious. And now it's all the way down here at 34,000. Yeah, that would be a terrible loss. But once again, if you're expecting that Bitcoin is going to hold out and eventually climb back to its highs that it can, and it could, you have no idea. Price is channeling up. We do have an area here where it's like, okay, cool. If price is going to continue going, it'll respect this area or respect the trend line if it's going to continue going up the way it's going to go. Could it take a whole lot longer? It could. But that's basically that. So I don't necessarily want to try to predict. I want to react to what I think is going to happen. And what I think would happen in this scenario is if you're looking to, which once again, you could buy this the entire time, and that's something I haven't felt comfortable with, is just continuously buying when I've looked at a particular time frame and I'm like, this thing is just going. It needs to pull back at some point in time. That's one thing I got to get out of my head, just this idea that it needs to pull back. It doesn't need to. It could continue going. And I should probably continuously stay with that trend. As long as it's there and valid, I should stay with it. I can't get out of my way, and I find myself hesitant to do it. And if I'm hesitant to get into the trade, I'm not going to manage it as comfortably as I would, which means I'm going to be making mistakes in my trade management. So I just avoid it, even though I know it will work out each and every time. I just can't get out of my own way. And so that's generally what I struggle with there. I like to see what I already have planned out and go with that. Especially because once it's all about the higher time frame bias that I was looking at, I'm expecting a pullback because I would only want to get in for something like Solana at a buying area, only because I haven't done much crypto. So I mean, it's the same sort of scenario. But yeah. So that's that. Hopefully you understood all that. And if you got any questions, let me know.